And to our top story this afternoon, Judge Thokozile Masipa has referred Paralympian murder suspect Oscar Pistorius for 30 days of psychiatric observation. Judge Masipa has made the ruling at the North Gauteng High Court following yesterday's application by State Prosecutor Gerrie Nel in terms of Section 78 of the Criminal Procedures Act. The 12th defense witness, Dr. Merrill Foster, who is a psychiatrist, testified that Pistorius was suffering from generalized anxiety disorder. The judge described Foster's report as fairly comprehensive, even though the psychiatrist had only conducted 2 interviews with the Blade Runner. The athlete was also charged with 3 contraventions of the Firearm Controls Act. Our reporter Leila Magnus has the details.
Well, Judge Masipa said that Dr. Foster's evidence that Oscar Pistorius may have been influenced with his general anxiety disorder when he fired the shots on 14 February opened the door for a psychiatric evaluation. She said that it is important for the court to get an objective report on Pistorius' mental health. And she also said that the court cannot determine whether this disorder is a mental illness or only a disorder, and that is why she needs professional people to guide her and to evaluate him so that she can be sure when this case continues what this influence of the disorder was on Pistorius.
Now, psychiatrist Dr. Foster had only conducted 2 interviews with Pistorius. How did Judge Masipa actually view Foster's report?
Yes, well, she said the report was the basis for a ruling and the reason why she sent him for mental evaluation. She said that it seems that Foster saw him only for 2 short periods, that she did not have a lot of time to really assess him, and that it is therefore important that a panel should have a lot of time to assess him to come to a conclusion on his mental health.
Pistorius stood still and emotionless as Judge Masipa spoke. How did the court react to the ruling?
Well, most of the journalists in court expected the ruling. I think the defense beforehand also knew that this was what Masipa was going to say. Before the court started, you could see Oscar was speaking to his defense advocate, Barry Roo, and he kind of walked away from Roo just looking a little bit dejected, and Roo called him back. They talked again, and he just went and he sat, and he kind of stared in front of him. After the ruling, when the court was adjourned, he took a few very big swigs of his water bottle and, started packing up his stuff. I think they expected it, but I think it's still not going to be easy for Pistorius, even if he is an outpatient.
Sure.
and he doesn't have to sleep inside the mental hospital.
Pistorius was also charged with 3 contraventions of the Firearms Control Act. Can you elaborate?
Yes, he was in possession of ammunition that he did not have a licensed firearm for, and he was also charged for discharging a firearm in public areas where it could endanger members of the public.
And that was our reporter Leila Magnus at the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. Now, meanwhile, Durban-based clinical psychologist Dr. Sherona Rawat says murder-accused Oscar Pistorius will be treated for the generalized anxiety disorder for over a month before the next hearing. Dr. Rawat says Pistorius will be under mental observation in hospital.
The temporary insanity defense usually is taken up at the beginning of the case, and it usually indicates that they thought that the person was not in the right mind when the incident occurred. They weren't aware of what they were doing, they weren't aware of the wrongfulness of their actions, and they weren't considering consequences. For a temporary insanity plea, it would have to be that the person didn't understand the consequences of their actions at the time, and that they don't understand the proceedings of the court, etc., at this time. And it's quite clear that Oscar does understand the process, he does understand what is going on, and he does understand the wrongfulness of his actions, as he is quite emotional and crying, etc., etc.
What sort of impact would it have on this case?
Should he have an anxiety issue and should he be overwhelmed at the moment, they probably would put the case on hold for a bit, give him the treatment he needs, and help him recover. Because the condition that he has, you can recover from. There are means and ways of treating it, and a person can come out of it. So it's not a permanent condition.
Could you take me through the steps in which Oscar would be evaluated?
It's usually over a 30-day period where they are observed by psychiatrists and clinical psychologists, where there would be assessments conducted on them in line with what I mentioned earlier. And then an evaluation will be given out. Should that evaluation not be ready within 30 days, they could ask for an extension of time.
Now, looking into what occurred in court where he had troubled childhood, how does this contribute to generalized anxiety disorder?
It contributes quite significantly to generalized anxiety, depending on the kind of conditions the person went through or the kind of traumas. Everybody is unique, and everybody handles things differently. So there's a lot of factors that come in there. So that's an extremely loaded question in actual fact.
And that was Durban-based clinical psychologist Dr. Sherona Rawat talking to NewsBreak's Hussein Ibrahim.